Now, it is entirely subjective. The parameters are subjective. The things that are being reported are subjective. There's no physical signs. There's no test. There's nothing that can take you beyond your imagination as a diagnoser. So we are into a different, and as I've said before, you are also now in the in the situation, in the, if you like, the territory where you are now creating a scaffolding for how a person starts to understand their experiences. To help you understand that a bit further, if we were to practice medicine in the same way that we're practicing in psychiatry, you'd go to your doctor with a cough, and the doctor would ask you about the history of the cough, and they wouldn't listen to your chest. They wouldn't do an X-ray, wouldn't do a sputum sample or a peak flow meter. They'd diagnose you with a recurrent cough disorder. But, you know, we know kind of implicitly when we go to the doctor or to medical profession and we're looking for a diagnosis, we want to understand the cause. We want to know if the chest pain is a heart attack or is it acid reflux. We kind of implicitly know that diagnosis is a system of classification based on proximal cause. So when we start mistaking what we do in psychiatry, that what we're calling diagnoses that have been literally voted into existence by committees, that this is something that exists in a concrete way inside you, that we've diagnosed something going wrong, something abnormal, something you've not discovered what's going on, because I think between inputs from the environment and outputs in terms of our experiences and behaviors is just a big black box. We really have no mechanism. The only thing we can say with certainty about that bit in the middle is that it's a meaning making. It tries to make sense of things. And so we actually end up creating, by giving a diagnosis, we've created a certain scaffolding. And I think the scaffoldings we create when we do mental health diagnoses are potentially disempowering. I mean, I can understand the psychological appeal of it. It would be nice to think that you can go to somebody and he can tell you your suffering is the result of this condition or that condition. And now it will give you hope, oh, something's been understood, and it will give you hope that now they'll know what to do about it. So even if the scientific thing isn't valid, and it's clearly not valid, you can understand why it would still be appealing for psychological reasons. You know, and people would then think, oh, I'm not alone in this. You know, there are other people who've got this condition. But for that to be something for us to say, okay, fair enough, the science is missing, but actually there is a real pragmatic role for working in this way, then we would really need to demonstrate that when we make diagnosis, and since we've been making diagnosis, we're making more and more diagnosis than we've ever done before, that we would really need to demonstrate is having some positive impact on people's lives, that their lives are improving as a result, that the treatments are making a difference at some population level, some way of measuring that there is a positive difference. But the evidence is that in those countries that have got the most mental health services, some of the worst outcomes. In fact, seems to be almost a correlation. Not almost, there is a correlation, and no correlation is not necessarily causation. But seems to be a correlation that the more treatments we provide, the more people seem to end up long-term disabled and taking disability benefit, the higher the number of people who don't get back into work or into education. That the future outcomes of those who get caught in mental health systems is really quite poor, and it's not something that you see in other branches of medicine. So in some ways, it feels like a cruel trick to be playing on people, that we're not being honest with them, that when we give them a diagnosis, this is not a diagnosis. We're providing a way for you to think about your experiences. And so these are the types of questions that the more I understood about the lack of evidence and about the poor outcomes, these are the sorts of things that made me want to go deeper into understanding what is the potential implications of running a system that has such poor outcomes, that is not based on anything that appears to be advancing any scientific knowledge anytime soon, and yet we're acting as if the opposite is the case. What are the implications? Why is this? Why is it resulting in such poor outcomes? Why are we not making any progress with our scientific knowledge?